Hello everyone, this is Matt with Prepare Now. I've been preparing this, I know for the pun, response timeline for a while now. I will be looking down, I have notes, currently kind of moving. So my new house, I will have a proper studio, including taking shots out in the woods, but till then, let's get to the material. So you name your disaster, that's going to be sizable, regional, that will affect everyone very similar, then most likely this timeline will play into it. Again, every disaster is different, but this will give you a rough idea to start thinking about what it may or may not have to do with you and what could be possibly fit into your disaster you're looking at. For the event to, let's say, 72 hours, I broke it kind of into 4 different sections: people, food, water, and shelter. So people are likely going to be in kind of 2 boats. I'd say 75% shock, don't know what to do, kind of deer in the headlights look, emotional, screaming, phone lines will be jammed because everybody wants to talk about everything, and that's the only thing they can do. There'll be a lot of anxiety. Some people will be helpful, some people will be helping. The normal things after a disaster. Food will be available. Some minimal shortages from here to there, depending on people, if they've got news that talks about longer time. Usually government tries to keep any kind of timeline very generous so people don't freak out, wisely so. But you shouldn't see too much panic buying unless the disaster is obviously crippling. No change in water supply. Maybe people are going to buy some extra bottles of water. Again, this will all progress, especially from time of the event to 72 hours. Shelter, people mainly will stay near to home. If they're at work, majority, if they're smart, will say, hey, time to go home. Go pick up the kids. There's going to be a lot of traffic, so think about probably one of your worst days coming home. So be not unpassable, but not too friendly of a drive home. So depending on where you're located, if you're inside a major urban center, expect it's going to be pretty gnarly, and make sure always to have a half tank of gas. Should be able to still get gas at this time. Again, people are still going to be at their jobs, especially convenience areas, because they need those jobs, and they're praying that this just blows over. So next would be the 72 hours to 2 weeks. This is when things get sketchy. People likely panic will kind of set in. You'll start seeing panic buying. Money will slowly lose its value. That's more towards the 2 weeks mark. Organized groups, crime, you name it, will kind of start to spurt up. Theft and crime will start to increase, especially in the urban core, after about 5 days, because that's about when people's normal stockpiles of food and water will kind of go away. Also, you have to understand, even narcotics, alcohol, and that stuff, there's limited supply, even at urban center. So about 5 days, just expect to hunker down. Even if you're bugging out, you better be out before that 72-hour mark. From my own experience working in public safety and training with FEMA and you name it, after about 72 hours-ish, you better just be ready, hunker down, and let nature take its course. Sadly, there's going to be a large die-off. People that will need immediate food, drugs, you name it, and also crime and whatnot. You're also going to see a lot of people wanting to step in. Now, normal response time for FEMA is about 72 hours-ish, depending on the area. We're going to help, but they're going to want to control. They're not good nor evil. It's just our government. Take it for what it is. I would personally stay away from those locations as much as possible, unless it's dire, including hospitals, because those are people who are going to be more desperate, more people that will do more extreme things, more crime, more assaults, likelihood of taking advantage of each other, because you know those people are not going to want to be there any more than you do. So that's where us being prepared for that first 2 weeks is so dire. People are going to be scared. They're going to be alert, hyper vigilant, and maybe a little off the cray-cray. So if you have neighbors that are very ultra any direction, they're going to show their heads. This is where you stay inside, you hunker down, do the smart things, no lights at night, limit movement, make yourself look invisible, but not like the place is empty. Food is becoming limited, at least fresh food, stuff like that. Most people will have canned food and stuff like that. That will last probably the longest. People only have about 5 days on average, so to kind of put that in your mind, that around that 5-day mark is when really stuff's going to get really bad. Protein, baby formula, fresh anything is going to be the big ones that are going to go out really quick, sadly. So just another thing to kind of write down and keep in your mind. Having a timeline will help you guide other people on what to expect, because you've kind of pre-planned it. The government has actually done mega studies on this stuff, and you can look at it. It's free to see. There's multiple scenarios, and sadly, a lot of it is somewhat correct. Water, about 5 days, the pipelines are going to start going dry. On average, they have about a 72-hour pump, but that's also coming from water treatment plants. So if one kink breaks down, which we know how the government runs, needs constant updates, water is going to be probably your biggest scarcity. No one stores large amounts of water. They just store food, but water is going to get key. Then they're going to go after, first everybody's going to drink up their soda, milk, juice, alcohol, the fun stuff, And then they finally go to the water. And when a person is dying of thirst, people can get quite crazy. A person that was calm, religious, thoughtful even, can become extremely aggressive, especially when it comes to having kids, especially young kids that can't understand. A cornered animal that's, in danger or protecting a family is probably one of your worst nightmares. So you're going to have to determine whether you're going to share, stay away from that kind of situation, don't answer the door. There's a lot of ifs on that, but just expect around 5 days, that's when now that craziness is going to occur. Most people don't understand that even getting rainwater can be limited and has to be treated, and it's extensively, having equipment and manpower to do that, so just be advised. Shelter, people will again stay close to their homes. If you were to take a normal map, I want you to do this if you can at home. Take a normal map of your metro. You can go online and see the average distance a person will walk during daylight hours. Then this is when we're going to have fun with our math back in high school, is make outer circles. And you will see if a person's walking from the metro inside, how far they can get each day. Now, again, they're not going to do that, but that's your maximum of the population could exit at that time. So I have a map of where I'm living, and then how many rings out. That's 5 days where if everybody just decided to leave. What you're going to see is people are slowly, just like animals, will take over certain areas, take all the resources, and move outwards. Take over all the resources, move outwards. So you kind of see where things are. On the good side for us, that usually lose a lot of the group due to disease, assaults, shootings, you name it, as they move outwards from their course. But it's good to see a map and where things might be hitting your area just by people moving from certain areas. You'll be finding the essentials will be starting to get pretty bare, especially people on medication. 5 days on, you're going to see massive withdrawals from most of the population, whether it be antidepressants, antipsychotics. Insulin's going to be wearing thin if they don't have it properly stockpiled. Blood pressure medicine, Elderly, sadly, are going to take a massive hit. 80% probably die off if they don't have appropriate care. You're not going to see a lot of CNAs making minimum wage, going to sticking around nursing homes. So if you have family there, you need to get them out in that first 24 to 48 hours. House fires are going to start. That's another thing that you really need to pay attention to, is people are going to start finding ways to cook and how to get water. Everybody knows you need to boil water. It makes it nice and clean. Well, we know better, but how many people do you trust with a candle and a lighter? Now you put them in a suburban area that most places have gas, if they're lucky, furnaces, if no furnaces at all. Most people rely on microwaves and whatnot. So just pay attention. Again, that first 72 hours is your action time. Do what you got to do, because after the first 72 hours, that's when shit really honestly hits the fan. That 72 hours onward is going to go from a very high pace craziness to a slow decline. So what I mean by that is everybody's going to be scrambling around 72 hours, and then people sadly will die off, or they will find a way to get out of the area, or they will meet their demise, you know. And then people are left. You're going to see organized groups, gangs, if per se, but it doesn't matter. It could be church groups that have hanged around. If they have firearms, they have any kind of means of manipulation, they will do it, because we have just put ourselves back hundreds of years to the strong will survive. So the best thing I suggest, again, do the map, figure out what your location to a large population could be on your doorstep, and then two, kind of have this written down. So when your family comes to you in a panic, because, you know, as you probably, a lot of people out there have one person that is into preparedness and other people kind of look at you and roll your eyes, they're going to come to you and say, what's going to happen? You can open that book and say, basically, hey, this is what we're going to see. This is what's going to happen. This is what we need to do. And then when things start to fall into place, they'll start to trust you and help you understand what needs to be done. When you ask them, you can't have lights on after dusk. Why can't we go play with our neighbor kids? Everybody's out of school. So just take these things in. I'm going to do a follow-up that's more lengthy, because it kind of goes through different levels of progression, and it will definitely hit past the 15-minute mark. But if you have any questions, please, down below, comments, subscribe. This channel is just getting really going. I'll have a proper studio soon. My whole goal here is to help others be ready for disasters and able to enjoy life, but also if life decides to get angry at us, we can just deal with it and keep going. As always, this is Matt with Prepare Now. Have a great day.